By 1860, the United States was a powder keg waiting for a spark. The compromises of the past, the Missouri Compromise, the Compromise of 1850, had failed. The Supreme Court's Dred Scott decision had declared that African Americans could not be citizens, and John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry had convinced the South that the North wanted a race war. Welcome to part 1 of our Civil War series. We are looking at the origins through 1861. This isn't just about armies, it's about a political system that shattered, turning neighbors into enemies. Before we witness the collapse of the Union, make sure to solidify our Union here. Click that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the history that defined a nation. The election of 1860 was the most chaotic in American history. The Democratic Party, the only remaining national party, tore itself apart in Charleston. Northern Democrats chose Stephen A. Douglas, who argued for popular sovereignty. Southern Democrats, disgusted by Douglas, walked out and nominated John C. Breckinridge to protect slavery federally. A third group, the Constitutional Union Party, nominated John Bell, hoping to ignore the slavery issue entirely. Then there was the Republican, Abraham Lincoln. He wasn't an abolitionist. He promised not to touch slavery where it already existed, but he was firm that it must not spread to new territories. To the fire eaters of the South, this distinction didn't matter. They viewed the Republican Party as an existential threat. The results confirmed the South's worst fears. Lincoln won only 40% of the popular vote and didn't carry a single Southern state. He wasn't even on the ballot in 10 of them. Yet he won the Electoral College decisively.
They have elected a man who hates us. The North has used the ballot box to crush us. We have no choice but to leave.
South Carolina didn't wait for Lincoln to take office. On December 20th, 1860, they unanimously voted to repeal their ratification of the Constitution. In their Declaration of the Immediate Causes, they explicitly cited the hostility of the northern states toward the institution of slavery as their primary reason. In Washington, desperate attempts were made to stop the bleeding. Senator John J. Crittenden proposed a compromise to permanently protect slavery in the Constitution and extend the Missouri Compromise line to the Pacific. But Lincoln sent word to his allies: entertain no proposition for a compromise in regard to the extension of slavery. The compromise died. By February 1861, 7 states had left. They formed the Confederate States of America. Their constitution was nearly identical to the U.S. version, with 2 key changes: a single 6-year term for the president and the explicit protection of slavery.
We feel that our cause is just and holy. We seek no conquest, no aggrandizement. All we ask is to be let alone.
Lincoln arrived in Washington in secret, dodging an assassination plot in Baltimore uncovered by Detective Allan Pinkerton. On Inauguration Day, the Capitol was a fortress. Sharpshooters watched from the rooftops as Lincoln took the oath. Lincoln spoke directly to the South. He argued that the Union was perpetual and that secession was legally impossible. He promised not to invade, but vowed to hold, occupy, and possess federal property. He ended with a plea for peace.
We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection.
The test of Lincoln's vow to hold federal property came at Fort Sumter. Major Robert Anderson and his garrison of 85 men were cut off. In January, an unarmed merchant ship, the Star of the West, tried to bring them supplies but was fired upon by cadets from the Citadel and turned back. Now, by April, the garrison was starving. The tragedy was personal. The Confederate commander in Charleston was General P.G.T. Beauregard. He had been Major Anderson's student at West Point. Now, the student was ordering the teacher to surrender. Anderson refused, but admitted he would be starved out in a few days anyway. The Confederates feared that if Lincoln's supply ships arrived, the fort would hold out indefinitely. They demanded an immediate surrender. Anderson offered to evacuate by April 15th, if not resupplied. The Confederates rejected the offer. At 3:20 a.m. on April 12th, they handed Anderson a note. "We will open fire in 1 hour." At 4:30 a.m., a signal shell burst over the fort. It is said that Edmund Ruffin, a fiery secessionist from Virginia, was given the honor of firing one of the first shots. For 34 hours, the harbor was engulfed in flame. Inside, Anderson's men had no food and little gunpowder. The wooden barracks caught fire, threatening to explode the powder magazine. Miraculously, despite thousands of artillery rounds, not a single soldier on either side was killed in the combat. On April 14th, Anderson surrendered. He was allowed to salute his flag with 50 guns before lowering it. Tragically, during the salute, a cannon misfired, killing Private Daniel Huff. The first death of the Civil War happened not in battle, but in the ceremony of surrender. The news of Sumter electrified the North. Lincoln called for 75,000 volunteers to put down the insurrection for 90 days. But this call to arms drove the Upper South away. Virginia, unwilling to fight her sister states, seceded. The Confederacy moved its capital to Richmond, barely 100 miles from Washington, D.C. The spark at Sumter had done what decades of argument couldn't. It mobilized the armies. The stakes were set. The war would not be short, and it would not be bloodless. The Brothers' War had begun. That concludes part 1. We are diving deep into every major turn of this war. If you want to follow the journey from Sumter to Appomattox, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. I have a question for you to answer in the comments. Lincoln chose to send only food, not weapons, to Fort Sumter. Was this a masterstroke that forced the South to fire the first shot? Or was it a miscalculation? Let me know your thoughts below. Until next time, stay curious.